Good evening and welcome to the Norwalk Public Schools Facilities Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, March 26th, and the time is 5:01 p.m. I am joined here this evening with Diana Carpio, our chairperson, as well as Ashley Goulias. And I also have Deputy Superintendent Sandra Fayoes and her facilities team here with us this evening. So to get us started here this evening, I wanted to request a motion for approval of the minutes from our last meeting on January 29th, 2025. Or are there any updates that anybody saw that needed to be made?
I didn't see any changes or updates.
Neither did I. All right, so the minutes from January 29th are approved as is. Moving on to public comments, I did not see anything come in to email,
No,
and we don't have anybody on the line, correct?
no.
All right, well then I will shift the meeting over to Ms. Fayoes to take us through our facilities updates for the evening.
Thank you. Thank you, board members, and thank you for agreeing to this earlier time. We have a very important meeting and public hearing that we are attending shortly after. We will begin with a few updates that are more focused around specific topics, and then we will end with some general updates the way that we typically do. The first update, I'm actually going to ask Mr. Lowe if he could talk to us about the solar at South Norwalk. And we also wanted to entertain maybe some questions around the future solar for Norwalk High P-Tech project. But Mr. Lowe, if you can take on that topic, it would be great.
Sure. Dan, can you put up the site plan for the South North School? While Dan's putting up, let me just go through very briefly. Now, a couple of years ago, for the city's objective to intent objective to provide solar in all of our school buildings, we have actually install solar. Bill actually did it for Narrowmix School, and then for Ponus, Jefferson. We actually installed solar panel on those two projects, part of the renovation development projects. Excuse me. And then the one that's under planning, and I believe the installation this summer is Cranberry School. So with that strategy, the city strategy that we want to do this for all our school building construction projects, South North School is no exception. For that project, I came up with this idea that besides the rooftop solar, we were going to do a ground-mounted system because the upper portion of the site is really not buildable. Also because of grade change, it's all the way up there. We cannot have ADA accessibility up there. So we thought it's a good opportunity to actually do more than what we typically do on the roof. So for about 2 years, I've been working on trying to do this. And it turned out that there's many challenges. And at some point, I've been working with South Norwalk Electric Works, SNU, which is a municipal utility company. There are a number of requirements/restrictions. One of them is that because they're a municipal utility company, they are generally speaking exempt for deregulation. That means is that we have to buy power from SNU, and SNU provide very low rates, very affordable rate to the residents and commercial property in South Norwalk. So generally speaking, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe the rate is for supply is about 8.2 cents per kilowatt hour. Compared to Eversource right now, it's probably around 15 cents maybe. I'm not sure exactly what it is. So it's substantially lower than what the rate would be under Eversource. With that, so for some non-resident, you cannot go into the open market to buy power from a generator in Texas or something like that. So you have to buy a SNU, and it's a much discounted rate kind of compared to what normally would be charged. The other thing is that we cannot build a system that more than 75% of the usage requirement of the building. So we cannot be a generator. So for South North School project, when I start discussion with SNU, the challenge is that for the other projects, what we do is it's called power purchase agreement. basically we don't spend capital money putting in a system. We work with a company, solar developer, they put in the system and basically release it from them based on the power that it generates, called power purchase agreement, called PPA rates, which is the amount that we pay per kilowatt hour. The company would develop this project based on a couple of things. When you do Eversource territory, they would have a Eversource incentive amount. They also have a federal tax credit, which is, I think, for Norwalk is 40%. And then whatever shortfall there is, they would actually borrow money to put it in for the city. And in turn, generally speaking, our PPA rate is basically a debt service on the improvement. But since this South North School is in the SNU territory, we cannot buy power from a third party, because when you're leasing it, you're actually buying power from a separate entity than SNU. So when I start discussion with SNU on this project, bottom line is that we cannot go through a PPA process. We have to, SNU becomes the developer of this project if we are going to work with SNU on putting solar in South North School. So what you see here in front of you is the upper portion of the site. We were considering to put that many solar panels on the ground. And then, Dan, can you go down one page? Dan, can you go to the next page? And this is the footprint of the building, and we're going to put that many solar panels on top of the roof. Because this is SNU territory, SNU becomes the developer of this project, and that's where some of the challenge begin to appear. So what we would do is that the way it's going to set up originally, the strategy was that this solar system can be put in what you call before the meter or after the meter. When you put it before the meter, that means you're supplying the electricity back to the grid. When you put the system behind the meter, that means that what the electricity you generate is being used in the building. And when the building is not using as much power, then you feed back the grid, and the meter will turn backward. So before the meter and after the meter mean two different things. So for this project, the way we were envisioning is that SNU would develop the solar system, and it will be before the meter. What that means is all the electricity that the ground-mounted system and the rooftop system will be generating electricity would directly feed the grid. Meanwhile, the city will paying for City/Board of Education will be paying for electricity based on the amount that we uses. So the meter will operate normally, and we will pay electricity the way we normally pay for electricity to SNU, and there's no savings on it. So if we use 1 million kilowatt hour per year, we'll pay for 1 million kilowatt of electricity we use. And if we do it this way, again, there's no financial saving to the city. Additionally, the problem comes in is that the SNU is projecting a operating loss on the system. So SNU has agreed, the commission actually went out and discussed this, and they agreed to maximum financial liability they have is $25,000 a year. Anything more than that, the city will have to cover any additional losses. So with that understanding, I recommend the city not to do this project. The reason being is that there's no financial savings to the city. And at the same time, the city will put up the building and the ground for SNU to build a solar system. And any loss over $25,000, the city will be financially liable. So that doesn't make any sense at all to me, kind of thing. So what I did was, based on this about 1.5 years of conversation with SNU, I brought this back to the Land Use and Building Management Committee at Common Council, and we met and discussed the same issues with them. And also the general manager from SNU and also the chairman of Second Taxing District also joined the meeting, and we discussed this. And the committee agreed that, you know what, it does not make sense to do. It's not like anybody did anything like bad business decision. It just really come down to it's just like the structure of this relationship, it just doesn't work. And also the other main issue is that SNU currently buy electricity in the wholesale market, somewhere around 6.5 to 7 cents a kilowatt hour. The PPA for this project would be between, I would say, 10 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. So it would be a financial loss to SNU at the day we start this. And there's, again, so they really don't have a really financial interest to do this. One important thing to note is that this all sounds terrible for developing solar power in South Norwalk. However, the silver lining on this is that South Norwalk residents currently get very good electrical rate. And that's why these solar panels does not make a lot of sense, because you're not saving money because the rates are so low. So I think that's a silver lining that from all this conversation is that the community is getting financial benefit with this municipal utility company. However, when you do solar panel, you're not saving enough money to make it worthwhile. So it's a very complicated conversation and evaluation. And also, SNU doesn't collect, unlike Eversource, SNU does not collect money so they can issue it as an incentive program. They have a minimum program. I think you get like $4,000 or $5,000 for something like this, but there's no substantial incentive program that can support a project like this. So overall, meeting with Land Use and Building Management Committee of Common Council, we decided to seize conversation with SNU in terms of trying to further develop the strategy. But what we left with is that in the event there's money left over at the end of this project, I still have the responsibility to reevaluate whether it is financially feasible for the city to develop this as a capital project, not as a lease project from a solar developer. Potentially, the city can still get federal tax credit, but we will not have any incentive money from utility company except like $5,000. To do just a rooftop system, it costs around $700,000 to do this. So we got to make sure see how the financial performance works out as we look at this in the future. But there's a good possibility that financially it's not going to be materialized. Meanwhile, we have designed this building structurally to support a solar system, and the electrical system is designed to accept the solar system. So in the future, again, I'll look at the end of this project, but at the same time is that if it doesn't work out, there's still a possibility long term in the future that the financial of this may work, but we'll see as we move forward. I think that's where I want to end this. Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
So thank you, Alan, for explaining this to us. I know we have gotten, some of this over the last couple of our committee calls and conversations. And also thank you for working so hard on this for the last 2 years. I know it's really something that we were all in the community hoping could be established and could work out. But I do understand, when it comes to the cost benefit, it's unfortunate because I think we all would really like to see for the Sono School to be able to, generate solar and, be as green as possible. But so just the last part that you said, the school has been designed to accommodate it if, down the road, the business model changes with SNU, could potentially be shifted into a solar model. Is that correct?
Yes, I think one of the things that we're looking at, we typically install the system about maybe a year after the project is finished, because when you put on a roof, we want to make sure there's no more, even we put a brand new roof on the building, a lot of time we experience leaks in the initial period, so we go through the initial period of the warranty. So we typically don't put the solar system on right after we finish the construction, so usually about a year later. So when I look at this in the future, that potentially I can make a request to the state, if there's money left behind after we complete the project, we can ask the state to see whether we accept the solar as a reimbursable item. That means that we can potentially get 60% reimbursement for the capital cost of putting a solar system on. It will be add-on to this project. I don't know how they're going to look at this. At the same time, if you get tax credit, so combination those two may be financially feasible, but it all depends on whether the state would consider to accept this as a reimbursable item. So that's another angle that we can look at to see whether we make the financial of this works.
Right. So, just, looking ahead for opening day, so safe to assume we're just going to be using, traditional energy sources?
Yeah, and
What does that look like?
and SNU has mentioned that the power they buy, a certain percentage is green already. So it's not like
Right.
so it's not like the end of the. I mean, there's using electricity. Right now, this building, when we design new school in today's world, energy efficiency and the way we design this building is probably, I would say, around 80% to 85% of buildings run on electricity. It's the current strategy in the industry to design building using more electricity. And I think that's a good and bad thing. I think initially, I think the electrical cost is going to be higher because you're heating building with electricity. But the theory is that as time goes by, electricity that comes from the grid is going to get greener and greener. So I think that's the perspective that the strategy, the industry strategy in terms of turning this building more electrical. And also with electricity, we can use more heat pumps, which is more energy efficient. So a combination of different things. That's why all these buildings, again, 85% of these buildings run on electricity. And the places where you still use natural gas, it really come down to is like the gym area, the larger spaces where electricity heating doesn't make a lot of sense. When you have use natural gas for to heat mechanical equipment, it's a little more efficient because it's a large space, So anyway,
Okay,
that's where we are.
thank you. Anybody
Alan,
else?
were you also going to discuss the Norwalk High School P-TECH project solar?
Yeah, I want to just briefly hit that a little bit.
Are you guys okay? I apologize. Is everyone okay with us moving on to the next project? Is that okay?
I'm good.
Yeah, so Norwalk High School is we also plan Norwalk High School. Currently, our plan has two features. One is the rooftop system, and the other one is the carport system. Dan, can you put up that report?
Yep, I'll put it up right now.
Okay, so because the Norwalk High School is a multi-year construction project, we are at this point we are not prepared to apply for any incentive money. And it gets very complicated. But in any event, so you look at this is the footprint of the new Norwalk High School. So you can see the number of panels on this building. Additionally, Dan, you go down a little bit more. You have a few pages to the site plan. Right there. Additionally, this project actually included carport solar in the front parking lot. There has been different discussion about the cost, additional cost. When you do a rooftop system, it's pretty straightforward and it's not financially, it's not very expensive item because the system are put on racks on top of the roof. But when you do a carport system, it has a whole structural system that support the carport. And there's also large footings underneath it to support these cantilever arms that comes out for the support of the solar panels. The cost is it makes a financial aspect when you do a carport system. The financial aspect of it, it's not as cost effective in terms of savings. So when you look at the rooftop system before, in 20 years, the saving I believe it's like I think I think was say $600,000. Meanwhile, the carport system is about $170,000. And we figure the present value of $170,000 in 20 years is not really a lot of money. But then what we give up is that it's a very difficult sequencing in terms of construction to put this in while we are trying to renovate the building and tear down the existing building. We have a whole storm retention area underneath below the structure. So coordination and all this becomes a very challenging issue to manage. The other thing too is the aesthetics of it is that we spend a lot of money designing this building. And when you approach the building and you park underneath the structure, your view out of that, it's somewhat distorted. I'm sure the right word is. I don't want to, you don't approach the building like you.
Yeah.
you don't see the building the way you would like to see the building kind of thing, because you actually, it's almost a little bit like it's not like a full parking structure, but yet you are under a canopy. When you get out of the car and try to look at the building, you actually look under some of the structure. So there are those factors to consider. The issue, not the issue, the challenges is that at this point, we're not ready to submit a request for incentive money because it's still a couple of years down the road. So right now we're doing financial models for the carport solar and the rooftop solar. But until we are ready to do a formal request for bidding for the incentive funds, we are still projecting what the cost would be and what the PPA values are going to be. So we still have to make a decision at some point whether, I think that it's definitely the rooftop system is something we want to do and we should do. The carport solar is still somewhat questionable whether it's financially is going to be feasible or not. So we will continue to look at that, and we'll come back to the committee in the future to discuss a little further. That decision needs to be made probably within 6 to 9 months, because at some point we need to start planning for the construction of the parking lot and the demolition of the existing building. So we need to make a decision at some point whether the financial feasibility of a carport solar system it's something we want to continue to pursue. That's all I have. I think there's some numbers behind these sheets. Dan, can you move down a couple of pages to see the dollar value? Yeah, so in 20 years, we save about $172,000. Again, when you figure out present value in 20 years, annual saving is $16,000, that's probably worth about $5,000, I guess, in today's value kind of thing. It's not a lot of money, but what we go through is quite substantial to get it to implement it. Meanwhile, it's, for the rooftop, it's $622,000 in 20 years. So there's no question that rooftop system is something we should do. And the carport is still a little bit questionable.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for all the reasons that you just said, Alan, aesthetics, the cost benefit. Also, I think about like line of sight and like, safety with those structures. I've seen them before. And they can also be hard to park around. We have like new drivers coming into our parking lot. So we have time, obviously, to figure that out, but the carport, I understand that it's not as beneficial as rooftop is here.
Yeah. My concern, I mean, I love the ideas because of savings, but my concern on the carport, not so much the new drivers, can we go back a couple of slides there to go show that? Is there room for one, emergency vehicles like fire trucks and things like that? I'm looking at the building in case, because you have the car parking there, but also in case of any type of servicing, like if you need a big truck for anything in particular, if something happens at school.
Yeah, we're this, the city of Norwalk still power this parking lot with road trucks. So it's so these things, the higher the systems are, the more difficult, more costly to construct because of the cantilevers. How when cantilevers out kind of thing. So the wind load becomes a little bit more concern. So the footings get bigger and stuff like that. Yeah, I think there's definitely pros and cons. Some of the things we talk about is that even though it's not fully covered, underneath the solar panel is covered, but at the same time, you still get daylight coming in between the aisle, but it is a little bit, it's covered. So, I mean, in wintertime, snow-wise, you get a little bit of snow drift, but at the same time, it's actually a good thing, a little bit, On the other hand, it does create a little darker shade areas for security purposes and concerns and stuff. There is that kind of aspect. I'm not trying to sell this or not to sell this, but I mean, we consider all these factors. At some point, is it worthwhile to do this? I think in fact, the original design actually called for another row in the beginning of it. I removed it because I just don't feel that when we spent $200 million to build this building, and we drive to the driveway, you'd be under a parking structure, and you walk under the parking structure to see the building. So I didn't think that's appropriate at all. So I eliminated the first row, tried to bring some daylight into that portion of the site. But still, I think there is still some visual impact that the system provides. I think most of the time when you see a copper solar system, I think Fairfield, Ludlow has two systems on it, but they're not in the front parking lot. They usually typically people on the side parking lot. So visually, it's not that impactful on the facility kind of thing. So if you see any kind of like malls and stuff like that, usually they're not in the front of the mall because you want the visibility of the building and the approach to the building is very important to the aesthetic of the complex kind of thing. So I tried to find some balance when we developed this. So that's the balance I came up with, but still the number is still not substantial enough that we should still have more conversation about it.
Mhm. And talking about you removing that first row closer to the building, I see the row that's closest to the football field. There is another entrance to that field for emergency vehicles, correct? We're not just, you just don't see it on this side.
Yeah, you don't see on the side, right? Because we are probably around 15 to almost 20 feet above the field itself. So there's entry needed, I believe. We're definitely on Strawberry Hill. I don't remember where there's an entrance. Okay. I think the surface entry, we have a, what you call it? We have a, we have a structure down there, which is the team rooms.
Okay.
On the upper portion of the site coming from County Street. So there's an entrance there too. But not for public, it's really for emergency vehicles. Right, so I think we're going to talk about this again sometime in the future when we have updated information in terms of values and stuff like that. But it is still something that we need to look at in the future.
Thank you, Alan. And
Okay.
Alan, just make sure that you keep us in the loop if this comes back up with either the Common Council or land use or anyone like that, because I don't want to lose what the members of this committee have shared in terms of our concerns with the sight line and the possible safety concerns that can cause for us.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alan, we had another point that you were going to discuss on tariffs, and then I think we're going to turn it over to Dan for his updates.
Sure. I think everybody aware that, you know, as a country, there's a lot of conversation about tariffs and how impact overseas material and products coming into the country and stuff like that. That has come up at different conversations. When you look at the project we have currently, South North School is not going to be affected, as far as I know. The reason being, as some of you visited the site like about a month ago, you know, the steel and everything is coming in, and we are, in terms of commitment, in terms of material and everything else, we passed that point of, you know, getting raw material from overseas and things like that. So should not have any impact on South North School. However, Norwalk High School have that potential. We have, generally speaking, I was roughly probably like 40% complete on steel erection, and then all the structural steel has been bought already. So I don't think it's going to affect us in terms of steel as a raw material coming overseas or the overall market. But we did get 2 soft notices so far. One is for millwork. Millwork means carpentry work. A lot of the woods come from Canada. So if the tariffs affect Canadian wood products, there's a potential that it will impact us on the construction side. Because tariff increases are typically exempt for our construction contract, because the contractor bid on this project, they do not control the market pricing coming off due to tariff reasons. So these are typically exemption on our construction contracts. So if there's a cost increase in tariffs, then the city has a responsibility to provide additional compensation to the contractor. So it will affect us in the event that wood supply from Canada got increased tariff as a raw material. The other one was elevator. That's another soft notice we got so far. I don't know what specifically, but they just sent us a notice, just put us a notice that there's a potential responsibility. Whether it's whether it's technology of equipment being manufactured overseas kind of thing, we don't know. But sometimes but we are aware of these requests and concerns, and also sometimes it's like egg prices kind of thing, right? Is it how much it's really like market driven or tariff driven or issues that drive, or whether somebody's just trying to take advantage. So we're gonna look at all those issues. We're gonna challenge all the requests if and when they come in, to see whether there's just a real substantiated financial request, or just speculative kind of thing. So we are prepared to manage those issues when it comes up. But again, there's a potential that tariff will affect Norwalk High School project in terms of financially. But we are fully aware of it, and we are prepared to challenge these things to make sure that they're legitimate when we do get them. And I just want one final note is that back in 2004 or so, China was buying all the steel all over the world. So there was a steel price issue, a supply chain issue with steel. It did not affect us on the structure, but it did affect us on electrical conduit. So back then, we actually went out and bought 3 truckloads of electrical conduit in advance of the increases. So there's not a lot of means to kind of get ahead of this issue. At the same time, when you do, there's some strategy that we can implement to try to minimize our financial impact.
Thanks
I
for
think
those
that's all I have.
updates, Alan. Crazy days.
I'm going to ask Dan if he could please provide his updates, just so that we can stay on time, if you're okay with us moving on from the tariffs. And Dan, I think also when you do the Sono update, Alan had an additional update to provide. Thank
Can you
you.
see my presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So for those who have been out to the site and heard previous updates, the building's being constructed in 2 parts. The first part, which includes the gym, which you can see in this photo, as well as the cafeteria just to the left. This side is well into the overhead and in-wall MEP rough-in on both levels. Insulation and drywall is underway. You can see insulation on the 2nd floor in this photo, as well as drywall around the outside edge of this of the gym and the stage area. Rooftop units have been set on this half of the building. This part of the building, the roof was completed ahead of the second half, which we're calling Building A, or the west side. The west side of the building is following the same sequence. Insulation and drywall is well underway on that side, on both sides of both levels. And that side has the main entrance corridor with the learning stair. Learning stair concrete, I believe, has been poured since this update was provided. And also, just a note about the Oxford properties, we received our state approvals to demolish those. They were abated, the demolition was complete, and the development of those properties is ongoing with grading and fill. And the last note on here before I jump into the photos of this update, as Alan's provided on previous projects, is a notification from the construction team on about April 30th to confirm that we are on schedule to complete the project for this fall 2025 semester. And Alan, I don't know if you want to add more at this point. I know.
Yeah,
Sandra
I
mentioned.
do.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, my responsibility to the Board of Education, as well as Norwalk Common Council, is that on these school construction projects, many times they are not many times, but occasionally we do have some issues that affect completion in a timely fashion. And we've been moving along on South North School very well, as some of you have seen. We are continue to be very excited about our progress. But recently, about a week ago, we came up with an issue and concern. It's related to the electrical supplier manufacturer that's supposed to deliver switching gear, which is the main circuit breaker kind of thing for the building. There's a delay by the manufacturer about 2-3 months. We are currently looking and trying to find solution to this issue. There are potential option to stay on schedule, but those things have not been confirmed yet. So there is a risk in terms of completing this project in a time that we've set forth. But at the same time, we won't know until the end of this month. So in terms of my goal to notify the Board of Education and Common Council about our completion date of by April 30th to advise both parties about our completion date is still, that's what we need to do. I need another month to make sure that these issues are resolved so that we can maintain schedule. But there are a new issue that came up that we are addressing right now. So again, we won't just want to update you because it's I don't want to surprise anybody. I mean, I think we are moving along very well, but at the same time, there's a new issue come up that we need to address. So we're not out of the woods yet in a sense from a schedule perspective, because this could be a problem for us. So again, we don't need to panic or anything else, but we are doing everything behind the scene we can to find some options and a way to resolve these.
Well, thanks for that transparency at this point, Alan. And also
Yeah, and I'll run.
looking for other solutions.
Yeah, we are looking at, like, we are putting pressure on the distributor, and our system is based on 1600 amp service. We can do a temporary 1200 amp service to keep the building going, assuming the manufacturer would, and they are, it's interesting. Manufacturer, like, their commitment, it's like we have performance bond from the construction manager, and the construction manager have performance bond electrician. But the way the industry works, there's no financial or bonding insurance liability that manufacturers have in terms of delivery on a timely fashion. So it's a very challenging issue. In order to push them, typically we will have a bond to challenge them and to enforce the financial aspect of the requirement. But when it comes out to the manufacturer, there is none. We have to go up, generally speaking, you have to go sue them kind of thing. But it's finding it's a little playing softball and hardball at the same time, try to push and get what we can. So again, it's a lot of a negotiation and pushing and working together and working against them kind of thing to find some common ground to make sure what they promised to deliver, they are going to deliver kind of thing. So again, we need the rest of the April to really confirm and ensure that we are going to get the delivery and our options available to us will hold as well. So there's still these challenges ahead of us. Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
If there's no additional questions for Alan, I'll run through a couple of photos and into Norwalk High School. So as I noted before, here's a photo of the gym on the right, cafeteria on the left, and that dividing curtain would be right above where this photo was taken from. This is the service area side of the building, which is the east side of the building, the side that we started on. So this is the most progressed. You can see that the second floor, the glazing has been installed. There's temporary doors on the first floor with the frames installed. We rotate to the front side of the school on the south side. This is the cafeteria entrance. You can see to the left here in the stairwell, lots of light with that glazing going in. And then above that entrance. Glazing should be installed shortly. We take a step back on site. Over to the right here is that same cafeteria entrance. And then to the left here where this red truck is parked, this is the main entrance to the school with the main corridor and the learning stair behind it. You can see some of the curbs taking shape out on site. And this would be where the parent drop-off circles around and exit towards where we're standing in this photo. Rooftop units on the roof.
Oh, that's exciting.
Not that exciting, but
I got excited by the curbs. You get excited by the rooftop
we do
stuff.
have some curtain wall frames here that will go into these openings in the background. So there's more than just a rooftop unit. Also not that exciting, a little rubble here, but this is where the Oxford properties were. And it kind of, you start to see once these piles of soil are removed, how much this is going to open up the site and how much you can see from Oxford over towards the school. So,
and this is where the proposed new basketball court is going to be, generally speaking.
Okay.
yeah, but
And fencing, I'm assuming, because that's a road right there, right?
yeah, the basketball court is set back. There's fence around a portion of it. I don't think the whole thing, but it's set back from the road. There's some landscaping between the road, the court. There's I think there is a fence that does run along the entire outer border as well, but that's what we have for South Norwalk. Any South Norwalk specific questions before we jump into the high school?
I ran into a current teacher at South Norwalk School who is super excited. Well, you know, the whatever we're going to be calling it, but she's super excited, and she asked me if I knew if there was going to be any opportunity for the staff at that school to like get any kind of like a tour or a walkthrough or anything before the school opens.
We typically do, because it's more than just a PR stuff. I think it's exactly what you just said. It's like a lot of the community is very excited about the school kind of thing, and then I think it's important to build that energy as we move forward, because especially teachers, you know, they got to go pack and everything else. The effort that they put in to get packing and get we have them move kind of thing. It's exciting to know that, similar to I'm sorry, Joe, I'm moving around. Similar to Cranberry School, before school opens, we actually brought the teachers in to the building to tour the building before the end of the spring semester, so they can see what the progress of where the classroom is going to be. It brings a lot of joy and excitement to the
Right, exactly. I mean,
community.
it would be amazing if it's far enough along before the end of the school year for them in June, we're able to let some of the staff, members of the community in to see it.
Yeah,
Whatever is
and
done and safe for accessibility.
I mean, this is the larger elementary school we have in the district, and if some of you've been went for that little tour that we had the other time, I mean, there's very interesting space that we don't have at any schools. You got the multi kind of the cafeteria and the gym tied together, a single area that have a dividing wall that we can open up, because it is the biggest school in the system. They're creating more common space for major gathering, and there's like a 2-story space there in the main corridor, and the library. It's a story and a half, 2-story build section. So there's a lot of architectural amenities in this building that we typically don't see in elementary school. So
I can work with Alan, Kara, to see if we can organize a tour prior to the school year ending, if that's okay. I want to move us along because I know you guys may have some travel to get here to the meeting.
We're all jumping on Zoom, but thank you.
Okay, no worries. Okay.
Yeah. But wait, one more question. Has
absolutely.
the naming of the school been moved along at all?
No,
Or
we
that-
have not, we haven't
Okay.
approached that yet. I think
Okay.
that there'll be some community, obviously. There's
Yeah.
going to be some community
Like
involvement and the
survey
board
and
yeah,
involvement.
absolutely.
Okay, thank
So it'll
you.
be like a whole campaign. I know that there were some names that were suggested, and so that would be a part of the consideration.
Okay,
But typically with namings of schools, you get some stakeholder feedback.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Exciting. Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Okay, I'll do a quick update for Norwalk High School.
No, you have time. I thought that
That's
the
all right.
team needed to
Yeah, we're
travel.
gonna jump
Yeah,
on Zoom.
thank you. And I'm here, so it's not a big deal.
So we have a picture to the right here, the first section of the building that's been erected. Metal deck is down. I see they're detailing up on the upper floors, completing the deck. Some of these slabs were scheduled to be poured this week. And we also have some slab on grade that's ongoing across the site. And steel erection, we started in the first week of February. The crane has been relocated to the second location, which is a little bit closer to Merrimack Elementary School. I believe there's another shift coming in the next couple of weeks. And that's the crane will continue to make its way around the site. I think there's 7 planned crane locations, and depending on the area and the access to the amount of steel that they can erect from that position, each area will take approximately 3 to 5 weeks, depending on what location they're at. And just a general recap of what the project timeline is. Scheduled to be complete and open for the students fall of 2027. And then the total project completion date would be fall of 2028. That includes the demolition of the existing building, site development with the main parking lot, the football field, and all the other site improvements that are going in.
Great. So everything's on schedule at this point, budget and timeline wise.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate, just want to fully transparent. This when we bid out this project like a year ago kind of thing, and we bid out the construction work. There's a few things that we did not bid out is the demolition of the existing building and furniture and fixture because they're too early. I think the furniture, we probably won't go to bid for another year kind of thing. But meanwhile, we are bidding out the demolition of the existing building. And there's a couple other things that go with some concrete work and things like that. So if you see anything in the news media about we bidding construction, there's certain things we never bid out. So we are bidding it out right now. And we intend to request a additional contingency money from the state, which is roughly 4 to 5% roughly. That's why we see this update. There's a future money. It's about 4 to 5%. It's very typical for us to do that in any event. So just want to let you know that at this phase, which is the major phase of the project, we are on budget, on schedule. But we do anticipate that there's additional money needed for the demolition of the existing building and all, which has always been anticipated. But it's ongoing. And just also a reminder that this project get 80% reimbursement from the state. Meanwhile, the city has a revised reimbursement rate of 60%. So South Norwalk School is actually our first project that the city is getting 60% on reimbursement. So which is substantial compared to what we typically get for new construction would be 22%. So for South Norwalk School, generally speaking, when we first developed the project, compared to the new reimbursable rate, the city, generally speaking, I'm not sure the word is safe, but reduce our contribution by probably around $20 to $22 million with that reimbursable rate of 60% from 22%. So it's a very financially very beneficial to the city.
For sure.
It's real money.
Right. So to the right here is the first section of the building. The crane shifted and started erecting the second section. And some of these elevated slabs were poured this week. Here we have the first section, the second section, the crane in its second location. And here we have an area of slab on grade that's being prepped for a pour. And you can see some of the underground conduits running beneath the slab. Another photo of the steel and the crane. Here's a drone photo showing the building this is back end of February. So this was before we got up to the upper floors and the roof level. And as we work our way across, there's still a few slabs to be poured on the far end of the site. That's what we have for the high school. Any high school questions?
Not from me, thanks, Dan.
All right, and just a couple of quick notes on the HVAC upgrades. I'm sure Alan or Bill may have a little more information on this that they would like to expand, but the Brookside School, this was awarded to F&F Mechanical. They've executed their contract and have ordered the rooftop units. They're continuing to work through the submittals for the project, and the team is meeting every week to coordinate the construction at Brookside. The next grouping of schools, Rowayton, Bryan McMahon, Narragansett, Marvin, Silvermine. Newfield was the successful construction manager on this project. They're continuing to work through the design documents and constructability. We're going out to bid for the contractors, the trade contractor, to perform this work on April 1st. From there, our timeline for approvals is to have the GMP complete end of April and go to land use and common council in May, with the plan to start construction for those in June of this year.
Yeah, Dan, generally speaking, is not managing sophomore school and high school, but not these projects. So I think it's important to note that, I mean, last night the Common Council approved something. Originally when we started this project, we have the city approved special appropriation for the city share, but we never approved interim funding, or I call it interim funding, but we also need to approve the state share, even though we do not have to bond that money. But in order for us to execute contract, we needed the full value of allocation in order to sign construction contract. So that's what happened last night. So if you see something on the Common Council agenda about approving funding for this, again, the city share has always been approved already, but it's really the state share. So we need to approve those numbers, but we do not have to bind those numbers. The other thing I want to note is that when we first developed this project, it's a lot of questions and design hasn't been developed yet. So as we go through these design phases and planning of phasing and the strategy and how we do this, remediation and other issues and stuff like that, we are going to be doing construction this summer and next summer, because these are not small projects. I mean, you're spending multi-million dollars for just mechanical system improvement. Some of these we cannot do it just one summer. So we are doing some of this work, especially cutting, abatement, stuff like that this summer. And some of these schools will be required to do a second shift work. So I just want the board aware of it. I think this came up last month already, but I just want to just to be aware that some of these schools, in order to do this project, there's really no option. It's not uncommon for other communities to do this as well. So it's really, because typically school construction, we only have summer to do it, but summer is not like 2+ months. Generally speaking, teachers are coming back in the middle of August, and the end of June is where we get the building. Generally speaking, we got about 7 weeks to do construction. We cannot do $6 million work in 7 weeks. So again, sometimes we need both summers, and sometimes some of the school we need. So don't be surprised that when we're going to talk into the principal of each school and coordinate with them for second shift work. And at the same time, some of these schools with the ceiling, some of the school ceiling will be open for the 2 semesters kind of thing. But we'll make sure everything is secured tightly. There's no dust issues and everything else that go with it. Building department is going to be right behind us in terms of how much, when we take down a ceiling, what's hanging in the ceiling, how we protect it, the light fixture, the smoke detectors, all of them would be addressed and complying with a building department requirement, all that. But aesthetically, it may not be the most beautiful thing we look at for a year, but it is what it is. It's just nature of school construction. It's a limited time that we have in the summertime to do work, as well as it's you just, especially abatement, if you take 2 weeks, 3 weeks to do abatement, there's no time for construction. So all of those things being evaluated and figure it out. So we have requested extension from the state already for completion in 2026. Originally, it had to be completed end of this year, but there's no way by the time we hire the engineers and go out to bid and do all this stuff. So they have approved our request for extension to December of 26 already. So I think that's all I have. Thank you.
That
So
brings us to the end of the agenda, unless, Bill, did I miss anything that you needed to bring up?
No.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, well, if that's it, and there are no further questions, Ashley, Diana, you guys good?
I am good. Just wanted to thank everybody for the information, and I am running out the door, so I'm running over to Norwalk now.
Okay, sounds good, Diana. Motion to,
Sounds good.
So moved.
good night, thanks.
Night all.
Night.
Good
Right.
night.